Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the January meeting of the Woods Hole Markets Vineyard Steamship Authority. I would like to inform everyone that Steve Batty of All Media Production is making a video and audio recording of today's meeting in public session for the Martha's Vineyard Community Television, also known as MVTV. I would also like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communications director, is also making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? If so, please identify yourself by pressing the raise your hand icon, or if you are joining by phone, by pressing *9 on your keypad. When you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you. Is there anyone making a recording? Oh, yes. Is that Mr. Salzberg?
Hi, Eric Salzberg from the Evening Times.
Oh, and I see Mr. Jones. Hi, Bob.
I just snuck in. They moved me up from the gallery to be a panelist. That was very nice.
Oh, good.
Hello, Peter. Nice to meet you.
Me virtually as well.
Terrence, did you send me, oh, wait a minute. Bob, where did you say the package was emailed to me yesterday?
One second here.
My diligent board is taking
Yeah, it was sent out.
space for my iPad, so I have to do it this way.
Yeah,
So I can figure out how to add more space.
it was sent out about 6:15 last night.
Oh. Right here, 612, live again, right? Bob, can we start by introducing the new member?
If you don't mind, Madam Chair, if we first do the statement regarding remote participation, then we can introduce the new member, if that's okay.
Thank you. I'll head back to another device here. Okay, I would like to enter. Well, I got it. Statement regarding remote participation. Pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Act of 2021, and in line with social distancing guidelines followed during the COVID-19 pandemic, board members are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendances today would be unreasonably difficult. All board members are participating in the meeting by the Zoom conferencing app, and all members will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of the members' remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote. Mr. Davis?
Madam Chair, with us today is the new Town of Falmouth representative to the board, Mr. Peter Jeffrey. Mr. Jeffrey, welcome to the Steamship Authority.
Thank you for taking on this task, Mr. Jeffrey, and we welcome you. We all enjoyed very, very much working with Kate, and we expect that we will feel the same way about you as well. So thank you so much for coming aboard.
Well, thank you for the welcome. I know I have some big shoes to fill for getting a case passed tenure on the board.
We all miss her and wish her well. So, Brett, may I have the minutes? May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the December 13th meeting in public session? Mr. Malcolm?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Mr. Rainey, thank you. Is there any discussion? May I have a roll call vote to approve the minutes?
Malcolm, aye.
Jones, aye.
Randy, aye.
Jeffrey abstain.
Tierney, aye. The minutes are approved. And now, we have the first report from the general manager for 2022.
Actually, we have a Port Council report. I believe Mr. Cahill is here for Port Council.
Where is Mr. Cahill?
There he is.
Here I am.
There we are. Hi, Mr. Cahill.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
If you really want me.
I missed that, Mr. Mel. What did you say?
If you really want to know where he is, he's in Cancun.
Is he?
I'm trying to track that Ted Cruz at the moment, but I haven't had a sighting.
Mr. Cahill from Cancun, could you give us a summary of the Port Council's meeting?
Be happy to, Madam Chair. We met on January 4th. The meeting was rather smooth, and we had some good questions. The two proposals on the agenda today, one for Cape Island Transport, the other one for high-speed ticket books, were both passed unanimously by the present Port Council members. And so the only other thing I would add at this point is that Port Council looks forward to getting the two appointments from both Barnstable and that's all I have to report today.
Thank you so much. Is that because you're about ready to hit the beach?
Actually, you're gonna fly home.
Oh,
I miss you guys so much.
hey, that week.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Any more questions down there, John?
They're gonna be here, huh?
Did you do any sport fishing down there?
No, not this trip. Not this trip.
I
Thank
spent
you
a
so
week
much.
down there one time.
Safe travel.
All right, thank you.
Now, Mr. Davis, you're up.
All right, to begin with, I'll mention that we're in the barn, and with me is Sean Driscoll, Mark Rosum, and Steve Beatty. So, all
I
present,
can't see them, Bob.
because we're all socially distancing one from one another, and I'm the only one without a mask on because I'm speaking, so you can hear me.
Okay. Is there a way in the future, Bob, to see everybody that's with us?
We're working on that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to see that.
Well, the screen says there's 25 participants.
All right, so the next, first item under the general manager's report is the business summary for the month of November 2021. So the total number, Sean will bring up the slides, so I'm getting ahead of myself. Get ahead of Sean. All right. So the total number of passengers carried on both routes for November was up 2.6%, or just over 4,500 passengers. And that's comparing it against November of 2019. The Vineyard route was up 2.9% to just under 4,000 passengers. The Nantucket route was up 1.6% or 553 passengers, with the traditional service being up 18% and the high-speed service being down 12%. Year to date, the total number of passengers carried on both routes is down 10.0%, or just over 285,000 passengers compared to the budget, which would be based on January and February of 2020 and March through November of 2019. Next. This shows the comparison between 2020 and 2021, as well as the budget. Next. The total number of automobiles carried on both routes for November was up 11.4%, or just over 3,700 automobiles. The Vineyard route was up 7%, and that was primarily the standard as the excursions were down. On the Nantucket route, we're up 44.4%. That was primarily the standard, but excursions were up as well. Year to date, the total number of automobiles carried on both routes is up 5.3%, or just under 24,000 automobiles. Next. Shows a comparison in the last couple of years of the budget. Next. Number of trucks carried on both routes for November was up 11.4%, or just under 1,700 units. The Vineyard route was up 9.3%, or 1,000 units, and that was both the over 20 and the under 20 categories were both up. The Nantucket route was up 17.6%. It's primarily the greater than 20, although the under 20 was up as well. Year to date, the total number of trucks carried on both routes is up 0.8%, or just under 1,500 units. And the graph of the comparisons. Number of cars parked on both routes for November was up 7.1%, or 518 cars. The Vineyard route was up 9.8%, while the Nantucket route was down 0.3%, or we had 6 fewer cars on the route. For the year to date, it's we're down 9.1%, or over 15,000 cars parked. And this is daily fee pockets. This is not permit pockets. Next. Graph of our cars parked. So during November, the vessels made a combined 1,825 trips, and that represents an increase of 43 trips, or 2.4% versus budget. On the Vineyard route, we had 12 trips canceled for mechanical, 0 for weather. And on the Nantucket route, we had 11 trips canceled for mechanical and 12 trips canceled for weather. Year to date, the vessels have made a combined 22,570 trips. And that represents a decrease of 202 trips, or 0.9% versus budget. On the Vineyard route, year to date, we've had 66 trips canceled for mechanical, 191 for weather related. While on the Nantucket route, we've had 37 trips canceled for mechanical and 196 for weather. So for the financial piece of it, the net operating loss for the month of November was $2,859,000, or some $62,000 higher than what we anticipated in the operating budget. The net operating income year to date, you'll see, is $19,553,000, or some $6,258,000 higher than what we anticipated in the budget. On the operating revenue side of it, operating revenues and other income for the month was $7,906,000, which was $1,511,000 higher than budget. Our auto revenue, move on to the next one. Our auto revenue was up $298,000. Freight revenue was up $483,000. Passenger revenue by $182,000. Parking revenue was up by $78,000. While miscellaneous income, which includes interest income, license fees, and the like, is up by $242,000. So year to date, our total operating revenues and other income of $125,122,000 is up $5,183,000 versus budget. And you'll see automobiles are up by over $2 million. Freight revenue by a little over $2.1 million. Our passenger revenue is $55,000 off budget, and parking revenue is up by $934,000. And just a graph showing where our operating revenues come for the month and for the year to date. And they're all fairly similar. Our operating expenses and other expenses for the month of November were $10,756,000, or some $1,573,000 higher than our budget. Maintenance expense was up $483,000, or 30.7%. As we had the overhaul repairs from Martha's Vineyard were up $618,000. The rest of the vessels were, some of that is a timing issue in terms of when we're getting the bills. Vessel fuel oil expense, meanwhile, was $50,000 above budget. The actual cost, including the hedge premium, came in at $1.97 a gallon. We had budgeted $1.88 a gallon. And our administration expenses are up by $503,000, as our pension expenses were down $18,000, but health was up by $350,000, and unemployment was up by $26,000, training was up by $26,000, and credit card fees by $28,000. So you'll see the year-to-date, our operating expenses and fixed charges of $105,569,000 was $1,075,000 lower than what we anticipated through the 11 months. Maintenance expense accounts for $2,534,000 of that. Some of this is timing. You'll be seeing some of that go away here in once we closed December. Year-to-date, our fuel oil expense, meanwhile, was $685,000 above budget. So far, our fuel costs have come in at $2.01 per gallon on average, while we budgeted $1.79 on average. Next. And just a breakdown of where our operating expenses are. So you'll see in the business summary, the fund balance report. Our funds are in good shape at this time. So with that, Mark or I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. You're muted, Mr. Malcolm.
Mr. Malcolm?
Thank you. Quick question, Bob. I had spoken briefly in our December meeting with Mark Rosen about the ability, here we are the 18th of January, we're talking about November's numbers. Would it be possible moving forward to be talking in the middle of the month about the immediately prior month?
Yeah, that's usually, we can handle that during the treasurer's report. I think Mark has those numbers available.
Yes, I was going to bring those up during my report. I have the December numbers prepared.
Thank you.
There's always a lag in terms of when we're doing it, and generally, I know, for instance, right now we don't have the year closed, so usually by the time the board meeting, we haven't finished the activity for the prior month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm.
All right, next, hearing no other questions. We have updates on current projects. So the Woods Hole Terminal project, as Sean is bringing Bill over. Just since the board last met, the marine contractor J. Cashman Inc.'s crew has worked on drilling the two 36-inch piles that are inside monopile number 31. They succeeded in doing so, in getting at least one of them down to the design depth of -85 feet. They inserted the rebar cage in the top 4 feet and poured concrete in the monopile and the 36-inch pile, and then capped the monopile and added the ladder and fendering. Divers placed stone riprap along the bulkhead on this along slip number 1 transfer bridge to reinforce the toe of the sheet piles. They did so by placing a concrete mattress with scour protection, for the scour protection. The divers needed to go down to lay that down. They also laid the stone groin behind the southern monopiles. The stone groin is intended to protect the eelgrass in the beach south of slip 1. They, just this past week, Capespan installed an additional spool piece on monopile number 19, which is in the middle slip number 2, to protect the corner of the south pier. And protect it from protect the vessels as well. Lawrence Lynch was on site to do some paving repairs, and electrical contractors were working, and they replaced the gallows lights with a new style of lights. So, we sent out 181 community emails at this point on the project, and I think Bill's ready to give his presentation as soon as Sean calls up.
Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to say that the end is in sight here with this marine contract. Sean, go to the first picture, please. This is slip 1 as it stands. You can see the south end dolphin is complete. Monopile, as Bob said, monopile 31, we were able to get one 36-inch pile drilled through the stones and filled with concrete. That work is complete. And stone groin and anti-scour pad has been done. Next, Sean. This is the monopile, like in the middle here, without a finger on it. It's the monopile that I was talking about. So two, we added a spool piece, and the purpose of that is to protect that corner of the south pier. Next. This is a picture, an aerial picture of that south head dolphin. The railing has been set, accesses to the top of that head dolphin is done, and we're getting ready this week to set the utilities, the sewer pump out, potable water, and shore power. Next. This is monopile 24. This is the only remaining major work in the contract. We have to connect the monopile to the two 42-inch piles behind it. We're going to pour a coffer dam between it, connecting all 3 piles, and that's the last of the work to be done. I'll answer any questions. Oh, that's one thing. Cost update. The original contract was 43 million. We're up around 14 plus on 14 million plus on the change orders. That's as a percentage, that's 34% of the contract. Total contract is 57.7 million. Cost estimate was 53.6 back in 1917. So we're over the estimate by 4 million. Now I'll take any questions you have.
No questions? Thank you, Mr. Pluter.
Thank you.
All right, so along with that is an update. Tomorrow, Wednesday, January 19th at 5 p.m. The project's design team is scheduled to present to the community updates on the Landside design of the Woods Hole Terminal Reconstruction project. This will correspond with roughly the completion of 90% of the design development phase. The design team recently met with the community representatives to review plans for Cahoon Park, the landscaping in general, as well as to how the landside work will be phased. And those will all be elements of the presentation that we'll be having tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock. Via Zoom. Next, we have update on the SQMS, and Angela was unable to present today, so I'll do it for her. At this point, one of the biggest things that we had outstanding was completion of the SOM, and Angela would be pleased to report that at this point the SOM has been completed, been reviewed, and has been issued. So now we'll be going into some of the testing, some of the auditing some of the systems and the procedures in preparation for later in the spring for the teams to come in and to do a complete audit of the program, the SQMS program. And that's what I have for that.
Well,
Yes.
have the employees and everything been, participating in this right along as it's been developed? I'm not sure that I understand the entire process of this. I'd love to know what, I'd love to get that thing in my hand to take a look at it sometime.
Yeah, so, initially it was staff that was working with Safety Management Systems, Inc., or LLC, on the development of it as elements of the project were in draft form. Those were then shared with the respective departments in terms of vessel operations, shoreside operations. So those have been reviewed. There was some, for instance, some of the forms that were developed from this. They were put out in a draft form. We took feedback from, for instance, the vessel crews on the revision to the running sheets. We heard those requests from the crews as to terms of how they felt it. We could make those forms a better form, and we've incorporated that as well. So we're trying to develop, a participatory process here with our crews and our, shoreside personnel to make sure we garner as much acceptance of the program as possible.
Will we be able to access this on our app?
As we go along, yeah, we can get you copies of the T-FARM, the VOM. So the T-FARM is the Terminal Facilities Operations Manual, the Vessel Operation Manual, and the SOM Support Operations Manual. So we get you those.
Any other questions?
Okay, not seeing any. Sorry, just write myself a note to remember. Actually, next is the website, so I will have Sean come up and present.
Good morning, everybody. So after a review of the proposed master services agreement and statement of work with outside legal counsel, EDK Group and the Steamship Authority agreed to terms on both of those documents just before the new year. So the first phase of the project, in which ADK is doing a thorough assessment of our needs, started last week with a launch meeting on Wednesday. Since then, we've scheduled 6 upcoming working sessions with various members of our project team and other staff and consultants to take place between now and roughly the end of the month. And then that's all ADK learning about us and what we currently have on tap and what we need going forward. And then the next phase, which will focus on user experience and style, launches in February. So we're definitely thoroughly started and very busy over the next couple of weeks. And our current timeline calls for the new website to launch in early November and then in early January for the mobile app, although this could certainly change depending on how the process goes. So happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Sean? Mr. Malcolm?
You're muted, Mr. Malcolm.
To unmute.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep it so you don't hear my dog barking at the UPS man. Just, I want to share with the board something that I shared with Bob and Sean. From the point of view of the customers who use our service on the Vineyard, this website and improved communication for people who are either planning trips or in the middle of trips, waiting for boats at the terminals or in their homes is crucial. This will be a great proactive step to do a better job of communicating with our customers if we do this right. So there's an awful lot of focus on this. And Sean, is there anything we can do to help please let us know?
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean.
So next, we have an update on the MV Island Home Dry Dock. So Sean will bring Mark over to give his presentation. Island Home first.
Good morning, everyone. We're well into our dry repair periods. And presently we have the Island Home is at Sinesco Shipyard in Kingston, Rhode Island, commencing her dry docking. And we have the MVI is at Dane Shipyard simultaneously commencing her dry dock period. So that's one again, we have the vessel right now is at Sinesco in preparation. The next slide, please. So the dry dock highlights of the Island Home include the overhaul of bow and stern doors, blasting and coating in the superstructure and underwater areas, overhaul of bow thrusters, overhaul of shafts and rudders, and anchoring in the surface. Next. And this is kind of an update. This is all the contract items. We're at the very beginning of the dry dock, and these are the contract items totaling $1.3 million. So next will be we finished up in the dry dock.
Is there any questions regarding the Island Home first, Mark? As you can see, the boat was actually not in the dry dock at the moment. So.
Yes. Okay, Sean, we move on to Eagle.
Yeah.
Sorry, 1 second, Mark.
Okay, so we finished the repair period of the end of the Eagle at our Fairhaven maintenance facility, and one of the highlights is we have completed the installation of the new fire detection system. This is a new safety system so that we have complete coverage of the entire vessel while our crews can sleep on board at night, and immediate detection in the event of any fire or smoke situation. Next. And this is just kind of how we have ionization heads, which this is an overhead view of the freight deck. So we have had fire on the freight deck that will be initiated and we get an alarm through the fire detection system. Next. These are just indication fire lights and sirens located in various locations throughout the vessel. Next. What we found at the end of the dry dock period, we found we had a failed seal on the bow thruster, and we worked with Sinesco Shipyard, and we did an emergency dry docking of the MV Eagle prior to the Island Homes dry docking. So this is a picture of the Eagle in Sinesco Shipyard. This is the propeller from the bow thruster has been removed, and the seal has been subsequently replaced, tested, and the vessel was returned back into service with minimal schedule impact. We had some good timing to get this all done, and that's the current situation with the Eagle. So Eagle highlights installation for the repair period, installation of a new fire detection system, overhaul of main engine fuel injector plan maintenance. And this is just a note of the thruster replacement January 10th and 13th. Any questions, anyone?
How long will that be out of the water?
Right now, she's we're still evaluating the schedule for the Island Home is the 11th. We lost 3 days, but she's due to complete at the end of February, the 24th of February, as per the scheduled contract.
So and if your question was regarding the Eagle, Mr. Jones, so that was scheduled to be back on the run on the 11th. We had, since it had to be taken to Sinesco, it was delayed. And then we had, in terms of undocking, they had to wait for the winds to die down. So the vessel did go into service over this past weekend. So it was about 5 to 6 days late, but it is on the run at this point. The Woods Hole is made its way to Fairhaven for its repair period. So next item on is proposed license agreement renewal with Cape and Island Transport. So, Mr. Malcolm.
Thank you. Before Mark leaves, Mark left.
I can get it back.
Thanks. Can you hear me? I hear you. Mark, it's Jim Malcolm. Quick question. Could you talk a little bit about the transfer bridges in Vineyard? We've had a number of issues throughout the winter and last year as well of various severity. And I was wondering if you could talk to, is this a matter of just ongoing maintenance, or is this a matter where we need to be looking at changing parts out or changing transfer bridges out, or maybe it's just more loop grease? But what's the situation on the transfer bridges in Vineyard, and what should we be doing about them?
Okay, Sean, could you put that picture up? I anticipated some questions as a result of what happened on Sunday.
Right.
As we all know, we went through quite a weather change over the weekend, where we had quite a bit of rain, and then we had a deep freeze, which allowed. So what I wanted to show you is a picture of. This is a sheave on the transfer bridge, but the actual sheave that caused the failure of the wire is actually located below the deck. It's an identical sheave, but you can see a wire on the right-hand side which goes down to that pole. So what happened with the weather dropping, the temperature dropping in the morning of Sunday morning, we had ice buildup on the wire itself. And then when they did the first trip in operation, the the buildup of the ice caused the wire to jump off the shiv. And when the wire jumped off the shiv, what happened is it got damaged as a result of getting caught in between the side of the sprocket, the side of the shiv and the foundation. So it broke. So, you know, it's really, the operator could not see this when it happened. And we immediately got our crews over there, and I'd like to, you know, commend the crews for working in 10-degree weather, as most of the work could not be done with gloves on, and return the ground as quick as it can. Also, we had 2 other situations that same morning. We had the doors on the Woods Hall froze shut, and we also had the gasket between the freight doors on Nantucket. They froze in place as well. So this is really an anomaly of the weather as it froze so quickly, and there's really nothing it could have done to prevent this, as the operator could not see it, that the wire had jumped the ship. I hope that gives a good explanation.
Thank you, Mark. How often do we replace those cables?
The cables themselves are, usually we do them between 2 and 3 years, but it's also a matter of, we do inspections. I do my own inspection on these quarterly, and it's really a variance. This would never have happened if we did not have the weather issue. And this is just really a force majeure situation where we just got such a cold blast so quickly. So I hope that's an explanation. And our apologies to any, you know, to the people waiting on the open Vineyard for getting back over to the mainland.
Thank you.
I'm looking at those shows now. Did the wire come down off of the lower one there that doesn't have any guide over? In other words, the wire went slack or something, and somehow slipped off of there. Is that what we're talking about?
No, we have a counterweight which actually prevents that from happening. What we had was an ice buildup around the wire itself. And as the ice, as the wire went through the shiv, the ice actually brought the cable out off the shiv to the side of the shiv. Once it was off the shiv, it just got damaged as a result of the operator could not see the shiv in operation. I went over to Vineyard on Sunday morning, and the whole thing was an ice block down below. So, you know, this is not a normal situation for us to encounter.
So was this mostly from rain or from bow waves or both?
No, from rain coming down overnight. The temperature dropped so quickly, the cables were ice. They actually built up a coating of ice, quite thick actually, down in that area.
Questions? I don't think.
Obviously, this doesn't happen on a regular basis. Has it happened in the past?
Not that I'm aware of, but this freeze was very, very rapid and addictive. I mean, we saw it throughout the whole, you know, the operation in the fleet, you know, with doors and every other piece of equipment. Just, this is not a normal weather event.
You hit them with torches or something to free them up a little bit, or?
Actually, on the Woods Hole, she was in Hyannis on Sunday morning. The doors, they were totally frozen shut. We had to take torches and had to the lower tracks where the rollers for the doors. We had to heat up the ice, get rid of the ice so we could operate the doors. It was a very fast event that happened.
You're muted.
I just wanted to tell you, Mark, we're lucky to have you at the helm to handle these events.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I do have a quick question for Mark. Unfortunately, I don't think the severe weather patterns are going to subside. I think, you know, the climate change is going to continue. I'm wondering, is there a way to go about creating kind of inspection protocols, at least in terms of this transfer bridge, when we have these type of weather events moving on in the future?
Well, we have an inspection program in place, and like to also, you know, we also look at, you know, looking at modifying the ships to be a wider ship, because in my view, that if the ship was full width of the entire space, the wire wouldn't have had a chance to jump over, and it would have remained inside the inside runner of the ship. So we're looking at upgrading as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay. You got a couple of brothers beside the wire, you know, in line with the thing, will keep it from arcing off into that track there.
Yes, because once it's off the ship, then it's going to be damaged almost immediately. So we are looking at upgrading the design to prevent that. So we very similar, having a wider ship and having the same you know, size for that wire will prevent that from happening. We're looking at that modification right now.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Next.
All right, so next we have proposed license agreement renewal with Cape and Islands Transport. And I believe Mr. Ahmed is there in case there's any questions, but back on November 29th, the authority received a written request from Cape and Island Transport's Council seeking a three-year renewal of its license agreement to carry passengers on the MV Piper and or the MV Sandpiper. The letter is requesting a renewal with no schedule change. The authority advertised the renewal request in the local papers and on its website. We did receive 7 comments related to the service. All of them were in support of awarding the license to them. Cape and Island Transport has been providing seasonal passenger transport between Falmouth Inner Harbor and Egerton Memorial Wharf since 1996. Most recently, back in February of last year, the board approved Cape and Island Transport's request for be able to substitute the Sandpiper for the Pied Piper as traffic demands prevail. In light of Cape and Island's long history of successful operations and its performance in 2021 during the pandemic, staff is recommending a 3-year renewal licensing agreement for 2022, 2023, and 2024 operating seasons. And the Port Council at their January 4th meeting voted unanimously to recommend the renewal of the Cape and Island Transport license agreement as proposed. So I don't know if Mr. Ahmed has anything you'd like to add or you'd like to hear from him.
Well, thank you very much. I don't have anything to add. I appreciated working with Mr. Neely, and we appreciate the consideration of the Board of Government.
Do I have a motion? Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. All right. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Jones, aye.
Vinny, aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Fallon.
Jeffrey, aye.
Tierney, aye.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving on. Proposed preseason promotion for the high-speed ticket books. So for the past 10 years, the Steamship Authority has offered a 20% discount on the sale of its high-speed passenger ticket books for a short period of time prior to the return of the NBI for its season. The preseason promotion has turned out to be quite popular, as about 45% of our annual ticket book sales occur during that 1 to 2 week period. The staff is proposing to continue to offer the 20% discount sale for the books. At this point, it would be from Sunday, March 20th, 2022 through Saturday, April 2nd, 2022. The discount would apply to solely to electronic books, adults, seniors, and children. So the $300 adult book would go down to $240. The senior book from $205 down to $164, and the children's book from $182 to $145. As a reminder, back in 2020, we held 2 rounds of the preseason sale. As the first attempt of the sale coincided with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we ended up delaying the vessel's return, and the board at that point authorized a second sale. This last year, given the uncertainty still surrounding COVID-19, the board additionally authorized the general manager to either delay the preseason sale dates as proposed, or to hold a second preseason sale that would coincide with the delayed resumption of the high-speed service to Nantucket. While staff does not anticipate it'll be necessary to delay the promotion in 2022, we're thinking it might be appropriate for the board to similarly authorize these conditions as well, just to be safe. So staff is requesting that the members vote to approve the 20% discount on the price of all electronic ticket books for the high-speed ferry for a period of Sunday, March 20th, 2022 through Saturday, April 2nd, 2022, unless modified or additional time period for sale is deemed appropriate by the general manager as proposed. The Port Council at their January meeting voted to recommend that the preseason promotion of the sale of high-speed ticket books be adopted as proposed.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Attorney Strickland, I'm sorry. I have a motion by Governor Rainey and a second by Governor Malcolm. Is there any discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Malcolm.
Jones, aye.
Rainey, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Tierney, aye.
Thank you.
Next.
Next, we get into the treasurer's report.
Good morning, everyone. So I want to go over the reauthorization of our debt issuance and debt management policy. Pursuant to the regulations adopted by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in 2010, it requires any state entity authorized to issue debt to formally adopt one or more policies related to its debt management. The debt issuance and debt management policies require to be formally adopted every 2 years, which for us is an even number of years. We last adopted this back in January of 2020. The Steamship Authority currently has bonding limits of $100 million, and currently outstanding bonds as of December 31st, 2021 was $73,155,000. Our next debt service payment is on March 1st with a principal payment of $7,245,000, which would bring our outstanding bonds to $65,910,000. Attached is a red line version of our previous policy. And the only proposed changes we're making is really to the dates of the policies as well as the amount of bonds outstanding. Early this month at the Port Council meeting, we voted to adopt the proposed policy as recommended by management. So
any questions, Mark? Thank you, Mark.
And so I need a vote on that, please.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
And I have, so I have a motion by Mr. Randy and a second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Elkin,
Jones, aye.
Ready on.
Tierney, aye.
Madam Chair, if I may, Mr. Malkin asked earlier about the December traffic numbers. And I have a quick slide to go over those if I can.
So impressive, Mark.
Thank you. Making me blush.
You may go ahead.
All right. So quick overview. Okay, here we have the passengers for the month of December. We saw the Vineyard route are down just under 3,300 at 2.6%. On the Nantucket route, we're down just over 2,100 or 5.6%. And total passengers for both routes combined are down just over 5,400 or 3.3%. Year to date, both routes combined, we saw passengers down about 291,000 or 9.6%. That's comparing against the 12 months previous to COVID. And on the budget, we forecasted a 10% decrease. Okay, so vehicle carried for the month of December. On the Vineyard route, so for the automobiles and the under, we saw the automobiles are up about 2%. Pickup trucks were up 5.8%, and the freight vehicles were up 20.2%. On the Nantucket route, we saw similar trends where the automobiles were up just under 300 or 6.5%. Pickup trucks were up 30 or 1.9%, and the freight vehicles were up 16.9%. And there on the to the right, you see the year-to-date totals for each category. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding traffic for the year.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Mr. Malcolm?
just wanted to commend Mark, because I think you'll all remember as we looked at the budget for 2021 back a year and a half ago, he gave a best guess that our passengers would be off 10% given 2019 and 2 months of 2020. Spot on, Mark. Well done.
Thank you. It's a team effort and a lot of people getting their advice on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. Davis.
All right. So next, want to inform the members that further authorization at the December 2021 meeting, I awarded contract number 23-2021 dry dock and overhaul services for the MV Nantucket to the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, which was Steamship and Repair Company, for a total contract price of $1,751,492. As a reminder, the Nantucket is scheduled for dry dock from February 25th through March 29th of this year to undergo a hull exam, steel replacement, coating, blasting and coatings, HVAC duct replacements, and as well as the installation of the fire detection system. The 2022 operating budget for this was $1,067,405. In addition, there's a $200,000 estimate included in the 2022 capital budget for the fire detection system. So we budgeted combined 1.2 million. It came in at 1,750,000. The discrepancies included the some difference in the blasting and coating, but primarily it was in the hull plate replacement. The price of steel from the time that the budget was even this past summer, when the budget was prepared, to the current steel prices have gone up substantially, almost nearly 100% increase in the steel costs. So We did send it out to 11 shipyards. We did get 2 bids. You'll see from the bid package on those. So per the members' authorization, I did award the contract number 23-2021 dry docking of all services for the MVTV Tucket to the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, which was Steamship Shipyard and Repair Company of New London, Connecticut, for a total contract price of $1,751,492. No vote is required at this time. This just is for informational purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any questions, comments?
Okay.
Kind of a no-brainer when you look at the 2 bids.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why that other one was so high. All right.
I'm going to have you introduce this next topic. I thought we did not need a vote. Do we need a vote?
No vote for that one. The vote was up in December. All right, so next one is a request for authorization to execute change order number 202 for contract number 16-2017, Woods Hole Reconstruction Waterside with J. Cashman Inc. At a total lump sum cost of $1,463,726, or the option to complete the work on a time and materials basis. Change order number 202 is for the construction of the reinforced concrete coffer dam connecting monopile number 24 to the pair of 42-inch piles behind the monopile, as Bill pointed out earlier during his presentation. GCA, the engineers on it, came up with a design for a structure connecting the 3 monopiles. However, that design steel structure connecting the 3 monopiles turned out to be not feasible because the piles were skewed and not plumb with the structure, and therefore the structure was unable to. They were unable to provide the required tolerance for the design. So, as they're driving those things, depending upon what material, what they're hitting, they tend not to be totally perpendicular, so they're slightly askew. So the purpose of the reinforced coffer dam offers a better solution in terms of connecting the 3 piles, although its construction and installation requires a considerable amount of work by divers. Cashman estimated a lump sum price for the project, but also provided a estimate based on time and materials for the project. Our consulting team has looked over the estimates for the construction and installation of the reinforced concrete coffer dam, and they feel it could be reasonably completed within 6 weeks rather than 10 weeks that's quoted within the lump sum estimate. Clearly, reducing the amount of time required would yield some significant savings on this. The consulting team estimates potential savings of some 30 to 40% if Cashman is compensated on the time and materials basis rather than agreeing to the lump sum estimate. So staff is recommending that the members vote to authorize the general manager to execute change order number 202 for contract 16-2017, Woods Hole Ferry Terminal Reconstruction Waterside with J. Cashman Inc. on a time and materials basis at the rate set forth in their rate sheet in order to potential change savings in completing the work ahead of time. So,
Do we have any discussion? Well, oh yes, Mr. Rainey.
I don't know if you want to do a motion first, but I do have the discussion.
I think I'd like to do discussion first, Mr. Rainey, if that's okay.
I have a question. Really, it's if the time materials estimate that you guys have ends up being wrong, if we go beyond the amount that is left,
Yeah, so the issue when they're doing this, they're going to be driving some sheet piles, which we already own, that we have. And then the welders will, the divers will be going down and they'll be welding those and they'll be welding some support. So the issue there is, you know, some of this is we're going to end up being weather dependent as to the ability for those divers to be able to be down in the water for that period of time. Hopefully the weather can cooperate a little here on this. And then once it's done, some of the items that are in the fixed price includes, for instance, that they had once they pour the concrete, there still need to be billing for the time for that while that's curing and things like that. So we think we can save some on that as well.
Mr. Davis, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Helen, please.
I have a question. You talked about weather. How under the time and materials will weather delays impact us? Are we paying for the divers to sit at the dock for a day? How is this contract structured in regards to who eats the time for bad weather? Yeah, so we'll be paying for, you know, there's some overhead costs that we pay on the basis of well, it's actually a monthly basis that we're being charged for that. As for the other, there is some downtime as they're you know, pouring. The concrete won't be done in one pour, I believe. And Bill might be able to answer that question as well. But so I think there is some downtime there based on cure, the time it takes to cure and the like. I think the original estimate that they had for this work this past year, the new number 31, was that they were estimating 1 day a week to be lost for weather. I think their lump sum estimate for this phase of the project, they're now up to, they were looking for two days a week being lost because of weather. So we feel that, you know, if we keep this project moving and hopefully the weather cooperates, that the time and material basis will end up being a better option. Bill, I don't know if you had any sense as to how much downtime.
Mr. Davis, may I ask you a question?
Certainly.
Is there any way that we can devote someone who works for us, and I understand, you know, this is, Bill does not have the, you know, I'm talking about like, you know, some sort of basic monitoring. I'd like to see this particular phase, you know, really overseen by one of our staff members who can, you know, be on that site every day, can figure out and like a report on this. I think it would be very instrumental in terms of, you know, the long range analysis of the cost overruns that we've had from Cashman.
So in terms of that, yeah, in terms of that, we do have, in addition to Bill, we have Joe Levesque, a project engineer, also assigned. And then we do contract for a clerk of the works. And the clerk of the works, Steve LeBaron, is the one. He'll go through and make sure that you know what equipment is being used on what dates, so that way we're only paying for that equipment to be used, and what personnel is on site to be performing the work. And you know, that's one of his primary functions for the project.
So can we have somebody basically devoted to monitoring this particular aspect, you know, on sort of a 24/7 basis? So
Yeah.
And then do a little report for us, please.
So if I may, this is the last amount of the last work that's going to be done. So all of Cashman's crew and the divers will be only working on this. And whenever we do a T&M job, at the end of the day, the clerk of the works and Joe review the time sheets and sign off on them. So we are doing that, monitoring as we speak.
Thank you. And could we have a little report done at the end of that?
Yeah, so I think in terms of the lead time there is some rebuy at what that was ordered for the project, for this phase of the project. So I don't believe that by our next meeting it'll be done, but it should be pretty close to being done at that point. So we can provide an update.
Mr. Jones?
Is it my understanding we're just working on cost overruns at this point?
That's correct, Bob.
Yes.
I have a follow-up question. What happens in terms of delays, in terms of materials being delivered in large part due to the pandemic? I mean, who's responsible for those costs, or are all the materials already on site? And as well as what would happen if their diving team all gets Omicron? I mean, I'm just trying to see how many of these liabilities fall on the steamship over the time the materials come.
Those materials, we have ordered all the materials here and we expect it to be here. That we have kind of anticipated that delivery, if the crew gets sick, that's another issue. We'll be delayed, but we won't be paying for the crew who's out sick. If there is work on site and they get delayed because of weather, for the crane, there's too much wind for the crane or something like that, then it's our time. But if they're out of work, sick, we're not paying them. And one of the points, if we went with a lump sum on this, it would probably be the minimum cost. If we hit a problem, there would be a change anyhow, a cost over. The T&M option gives us it's the only option to save money. So in my mind, this is the best option. In the past, when we've done T&M projects, not as large as this one, we've always saved money.
But you don't know, and that's part of the roll of the dice. But I looked at the contract, and it's basically standard. I don't see surprises in there. Everything is passed over run now, so either we make it under the wire or we have to pay over. But I agree with you. I think it's just not as good.
Does this require a vote, please?
Yes, it does.
So are people ready to vote? Is there any further discussion? May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve.
May I have a second, please? Mr. Malcolm, thank you. Roll call vote.
All right.
Next.
Maybe
Malcolm?
Aye.
Mr. Jeffrey?
Jeffrey, aye.
Danny Hay.
All right, thank you. That takes care of procurement. So next, under old and new, want to just provide the board with a brief update regarding COVID-19. So back in August, the governor of the Commonwealth issued an executive order which states that all executive department employees shall be required to demonstrate they have received a COVID-19 vaccination and maintain full COVID-19 vaccination as a condition of continued employment. The order also states that independent agencies, authorities, public institutions of higher education, elected officials, and other congressional officers and legislators are encouraged to adopt similar policies. The Steamship Authority adopted an employee COVID-19 vaccination verification policy to further prevent viral infection and transmission amongst its workforce, as well as the traveling public. Since this past fall, we've been engaged in ongoing discussions with the unions relative to the implementation of this policy. And the authority's policy is that all employees demonstrate that they have been received at least one COVID-19 vaccination by the start of the 2022 winter operating schedule, which was January 5th of this year. To meet the policy's requirements, the employees were required to complete a COVID-19 vaccination employee self-attestment form and submit the completed form and any supporting documents to the authority's Human Resource Department. Currently, over 97.5% of our employees have submitted that form, proof of vaccination, or has submitted a request for exemption based on sincerely held religious belief or medically detrimental, documented medical detrimental conditions, or have documented appointments for vaccinations. That last group, along with any other remaining employees, remain out of work until they receive the vaccination or submit an exemption form. So we're at 97.5% right now of employees that are out there. That number will go down as we've been continuing to talk with the employees that haven't gotten it in. Half those ones that are out there that still have to have indicated that they will be getting the vaccination, but they haven't provided us with either proof of the vaccination or proof that they have an appointment to get the be vaccinated. So. And this is just for informational purposes, just giving an update as to where we stand on the program. Pleased to say that as many of our employees were able to get us that information. We did not have any disruption in any of the sailings for any of the vessels. Of course, the implementation of this just occurred right around the same time that a number of our facilities were dealing with Omicron outbreaks. So the staffing in some of the locations ended up being a little light, but you know, we had people, we called back a couple people from layoff in order to fill positions. So please with the progress we've been making.
Bob, I couldn't understand your voice there. What percentage are vaccinated at this point here?
So the figure we have is it's 97.5% have either been vaccinated or have filed for an exemption. And there's a half dozen that have also provided us with proof that they have an appointment to be vaccinated that make up that total. So the outright is probably 95% of the people, give or take, have been vaccinated. The other 2.5% are people who have applied for exemptions based on religious or medical conditions.
Nobody falls under the category of not doing anything and just staying home, or?
There are some that fall in that 2.5%. There are some that at this point have indicated that they will not be providing us the documentation.
So that's $12,000 to $13,000 a day of testing. There's no more. We don't have the medical team coming in to be checking temperatures and the wellness of the employees. We do have the non-contact thermal scanners in a self-reporting form that you indicate when you've been that you're feeling okay to work. Most everybody received their stipend?
Not at this point, no.
Anything further? Mr. Jones? I'm sorry, Mr. Davis?
That's all I have on this, unless there's any other questions.
No? Next.
So next would be is there any other old or new? Or?
Members, is there any other old and new?
Just a quick comment, I guess. So the Nantucket Tech Start program started this morning at 5 a.m. and I signed on to the computer at 5:14, and I was number 2,570 in the line. And as I expected it, and by approval and access to booking the reservation, which all went great, everything went smooth. I did not get exactly what I wanted, so I'm waitlisted for something else, which is part of the process. But by all indications so far, unless you all tell me otherwise, it starts to be going good for Nantucket.
Super, thank you, Mr. Randy.
Yeah. So I'm not going to jinx us, just to say, going into the meeting, we've done over 6,700 reservations on the Nantucket route, and about $3.6 million worth for those reservations. So, there are trips that at this point have sold out, undoubtedly, and there remain some trips on throughout the summer that were still open, but now it's 2 hours later. There's a good possibility that even some of those maybe days that are sold out at this point.
Great, terrific. Yes, Mr. Malcolm.
Thank you. Bob or Robert, how do these numbers stack up against prior years? Is the volume heavier, lighter, the same pretty much?
So the numbers compared to 2020 are actually much better than the 2020 numbers in terms of volume. There's some rate increases there, so we're not talking the same type of apples in terms of the dollar amount, but in terms of the number of reservations being made, there's more being made this year. As of about 8 o'clock, we were just about equal to last year's total for the day. So I would anticipate at this point that we've exceeded that total from last year.
Okay, I'm kind of interested more from the volume stressing our systems rather than the economic impact.
Yeah, so the wait room feature, which we had tested during the Head Start program, we tested prior to Head Start. We had that implemented during Head Start program a week ago. It was, and we had it working again today. So I think it kind of manages the load into the system. Our MIS group, Kurt and the team, we're testing, putting load tests on the systems. Starting the end of November, December, to see if there was anything that we needed to be concerned about, and we're thankful that there was the test went as expected.
Thank you.
So, as a reminder, the Vineyard reservations open up a week from today.
Next topic.
Items not reasonably anticipated by the chair.
I don't have any. Next topic.
Public comment.
Comment. Do you have any public comment?
Yeah.
Good morning. This is Mary Longacre. I am the chair of Nantucket's Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee and speaking in that capacity today. Can I get a confirmation that the emails that I sent to Mr. Randy and Mr. Davis on January 5th and 12th have been received?
Yes, I received that. Did Mr. Lowell speak to you? I thought that we were all set there, or are we not?
He spoke to me in general terms. I have not received a reply to my invitation. To recap for the rest of the board members, the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee has submitted a coastal resilience plan to the Nantucket Select Board, which they accepted on the 12th of January. And one of the highest priority items in that plan is to address the flooding potential at the Steamship Wharf and on the approaches to Steamship Wharf, Easy Street, Washington Street. If you're familiar with Nantucket, those are roads that run right next to the water, and they do flood on a regular basis, including this past weekend and 2 weekends ago. So we are seeing a lot of flooding in that area. And as a town, we are trying to develop plans to protect the town and those roadways and Steamship Wharf from flooding, which is expected to increase the sea level rise and increase climate change driven storms. So my emails issued an invitation to Mr. Davis, Mr. Rennie, and Mr. Wolf from the Port Council to attend a meeting of the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee next Tuesday at 10 a.m. at Zoom. I have not received an RSVP to that invitation, but briefly, we are going to be receiving an update on the conditions on Easy Street, and also we are our next step in our coastal resilience planning process is to pursue a grant application to do some planning around that area. And the goal would be to do that in cooperation with other groups that are involved there. Obviously, the Steamship Authority being a high priority for us. So we just wanted to begin to connect the dots and share the information and learn if the Steamship Authority is also doing planning and how we can fit into that.
Okay.
May I refer this to Mr. Rennie, please, Bob?
Sure.
Yes, Mary, I'll be happy to attend.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I wasn't going to speak for Rob or Nat, but I misunderstood the conversation with Mr. Lowell after he had talked with you. So I apologize for that. I thought we were all set there. So I will. I'll put it on my. It's on my calendar.
We'll be very well represented. So thank you so much, Ms. Longacre, for reaching out to us. That's terrific.
Well, thank you for your participation. I will talk to some of you next Tuesday.
Perfect. Okay. Looks like it's maybe time for us to move into executive session.
We have a question from Mr. Salzberg.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay, go ahead. Mr. Salzberg, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Munson, if he's still available.
I don't think he's online. Oh, yes, he is. Wow. Great, terrific.
Go ahead, Rich.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask you about the danger potential of these breaking cables. There have been at least 3 since the counterweight cable that broke in May of 2021, I believe. Maybe that's 2020, excuse me. Is the force on these cables and the transfer bridges sufficient to injure someone, crew member or passenger, if they were struck by them? Is that something you can answer, sir? And what safeguards are there around these cables to prevent them from lashing when they break towards people?
Mark?
Am I on? I don't see that.
You're on. You're not.
Okay.
You're getting up and on, Mark. Just your audio's on, but your video's not.
Just go ahead, Mark. You're good.
Okay. First of all, there's 3 separate cable systems associated with the bridges. One being attaching the vessel to the bridge for alignment. The second set is the counterweights which support the weight of the bridge. And the third being the lifting mechanism for the bridge. The cables are run in a way that they're outside the operation area, away from the operator. So I would look at this as a low risk area. We always have our concern. We have preventive maintenance. I inspect the bridges, all the bridges myself on a quarterly basis. We have our preventive maintenance in our long range planning in place, including changing out the bridges. We have changed out one bridge in Hyannis this year. We're preparing for other bridges as part of the long-term plan. So I do view this as a low risk as far as any cable parting as being away from proximity of the operator and passengers and our employees.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anderson. Was there anything else, Mr. Salzberg?
Yeah, of those three types of cables you mentioned, which was the one that broke recently?
The one that broke on Sunday was the actual lifting. It's from the electric winch, which lifts the bridge up so the vessel can depart. I hope that answers your question.
So it was the Martha's Vineyard. If the Martha's Vineyard had left, would the ramp have fallen? Was the ferry sort of stuck there until such time as the cable was fixed?
We don't move the vessel until the bridge is lifted off the freight deck. So the answer to that is no, we would not ever move the ship without lifting the bridge first.
Right. I guess my question was, sir, was the vessel unable to move because the cable was broken? But I do understand the protocol you just mentioned.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salzberg. Are there any other questions?
Not seeing any in the audience.
Alrighty, so I apparently need to read if we are going into executive session. I'm just kind of locate that on. Of course, I can't find it. Could you read that for me, Mr. Neely?
Yeah, I have it if Terrence doesn't have it up on the screen.
That's great.
Go ahead, Bob. You look good. Go ahead, read it.
Okay. The chair would like to entertain a motion to go into the executive session to discuss and approve minutes of the authority's meeting in executive session on December 13, 2021, and to discuss the authority's strategy with respect to collective bargaining matters, because a public discussion of these matters may have a detrimental effect on the authority's negotiating and bargaining positions. These matters include anticipated and ongoing negotiations with the unions, Teamsters local union local number 59, SEIU local 888, and MEDA district number 1. The public disclosure of any more information with respect to these matters would compromise the purpose for which the executive session is being called. After the conclusion of the executive session, we will not reconvene in public.
Do I have a motion? Thank you, Mr. Davis, for doing my job as well. Mr. Jeffrey, and do I have a second? Okay. Do I have a roll call vote, please? Malcolm, yes.
Jeffrey, aye.
Kearney, aye.
Okay. So thank you. We'll if we can reconvene in about 10 minutes, they'll give Steve enough time to be able to pack up his equipment.
So Mr. Jeffrey, just sign out of this Zoom and then sign right back into the same Zoom in 10 minutes for executive session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You can.
Thank you.